Hello, it's Dr. Dawn, Psych MD, your most influential double-boarded child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. I'm also an internationally recognized ADHD expert and mental health strategist. Good evening. Hello, Dr. Psych MD followers. I'm so happy to rejoin with you after a few months of not doing Facebook Lives. Hi, Maya. And I have been eagerly anticipating some upcoming events and new information coming up to share with you. And that will happen at the beginning of the year. But trust that I've been working tirelessly on some other projects and platforms to bring your way so that we can continue to increase the conversation about mental health and its illnesses. As you may know, since I'm not doing Facebook Lives as often, I actually have a podcast that's been going on, and I've actually partnered with a company where I'm actually doing some other mental health things within the community. So that has taken up a lot of my time, but I will be getting back to doing some Facebook Lives coming your way. I did receive a lot of your emails, and which prompted today's Facebook Live, so we can talk about a topic that is also impacted my life, and hoping to share with you some of my personal yet and professional recommendations on how to deal with grief and or loneliness during the holiday season. But before I do, please share this with your Facebook community. We never know what people may be going through. The holiday spirit in the United States is much celebrated in the media, on TV, in stores. You know, there's jingles that you hear, there's bright lights, a lot of people's laughter, enjoyment about the Christmas holiday, Thanksgiving holiday, New Year's is actually in effect. But not many of us or all of us actually feel that way internally for so many reasons. So tonight I'm going to be talking or highlighting how to manage, tips on how to manage grief during the holidays and or loneliness during the holidays. So thanks so much for joining in. Thanks, Maya. Hi, Dr. Donna. Thanks so much for joining the broadcast. Hi, Ronnie. Thanks so much for joining the broadcast. Hi, Miss Elnora. Thanks for joining. And Miss Brooklyn, I appreciate you sharing this segment with your Facebook community. So I want to definitely preference this as saying that for those of you who are hurting, who are in pain, who are reminded of the loss of loved ones during this season, who for the first time it's been difficult and a challenge with being away from home, because that's usually the area or the environment where you are or will be during this holiday season. For those who can't stop crying, who can't stop recalling the memories that they've shared with loved ones who are no longer in your life, this segment is for you, and you are not alone. I think that every one of us at some point in fashion has been there or will be there in due time if this is a time of celebrating with your loved ones and with your family and your friends. So what I would like to discuss is some of the tips that I would recommend and how you can have a different perspective, right? Because I'm all about looking at mental health in a different light, different perspective, different ways, and how you can manage yet own what you're feeling. So we're not avoiding the grief. We're not avoiding how you feel. Yet we are definitely trying to understand it, accept it, and kind of move past it to where we're managing it differently, where it's not impacting how you're functioning during the holiday season. All right, so that is the key to this segment tonight. I know some of us or some of you out there may feel awkward, may feel that it's going to be a lonely holiday. I know I was there last year. Just to give you a personal story of mine, I lost 3 of my grandparents last year, and they were well in their 90s. And it was a holiday tradition started by my mother's side of the family, particularly my mom, who I lost 12 years ago, that we would get together and celebrate each other's presents. The focus was less on gifting presents, but it was more on gifting our presents with one another. And so how we would do that, kind of started my travel bug, was that we would travel to different places, meet up, and just have a grand time together. Again, lost my mom 12 years ago and 3 of my grandparents last year. So last year was a very difficult time of the year for me during the holidays, particularly because it was tradition that my mother's side of the family would get together, and that's who I lost 2 of my grandparents 6 weeks apart from each other. So the last holiday, I actually made the decision and spoke with my father, who I'm very close with, and decided that I wanted to spend the holiday with him and my brother and my significant other. And that's the decision that I made to spend the holiday. And it was actually a decision that was very difficult for me to make because it wasn't part of my tradition that was already established with my family, right? So it was a change. And we all know that change can bring on certain anxieties, certain kind of feelings of uncomfortable uncomfortable feelings. And we don't really sometimes know how to manage those feelings. And so what was beneficial for me, and I found that was helpful for me, was that I was able to talk about these feelings with my family, my dad, my significant other, and my brother. And we had a wonderful holiday time together. And I'm so happy I made that decision. And I felt that was the right decision for me to make. Now, I did miss my other family members that I'm usually with. And this holiday season, I look forward to spending time with them in another city, which has been close to my mom's heart, which is Las Vegas. She loves shopping there. But yet again, when it can be a trigger, right? It can be a trigger to go to a familiar place of your loved one and spend time with them and notice that some loved ones are no longer with you. And so one of the things that I recommend is to plan ahead of time. You know, whatever your decision may be, whatever's more comfortable for you, you're not on anyone else's journey but your own. So make the decision for yourself how you want to engage during this time of the holiday. So for you, that may be going to a place where you can talk or spend time with your loved ones, which is your normal routine. Some of you may want to spend a couple of days where you rather spend a week, and before you may just do a couple of days. So that's something that, you know, can be helpful in just kind of shortening the time frame. Writing a letter to the loved ones that are no longer there. I actually have done that on many occasions for birthdays and holidays, and I find that you know, when we write, it's a creative way of expressing how we feel without thinking about it per se, but kind of letting our hands do the motion, and kind of the feelings kind of somewhat outflow. They just flow out. And so writing or journaling is a really other good way that I found personally helpful, that I've also encouraged others to do during this time. One of the things that, or some of the things that I want to go over and that I kind of made notes on, is that anticipate that there may be sometimes during this period where you may feel upset, you may feel sad, you may feel happy, especially I've heard that from caregivers, long-term caregivers, that they're happy that their loved one is in a better place and that they're no longer visualizing their loved one suffer. So it's okay to accept those feelings. Don't feel guilty about those. You may feel guilt about it, and kind of moving on and celebrating, and your loved one is no longer there. But those are feelings that I want to encourage you to own, to recognize them, to understand them a little bit better, and to, you know, that helps us learn how to manage it, so that when we talk about our loved ones or our feelings for our loved ones, then it's not impacting who we are, our behaviors, our decisions, in our relationships with other people that are still here, okay? So there's a couple of points that I want to mention. One is the loss of your loved one, in that it's okay to understand that there may be some painful moments. So what I recommend is try to change your perspective about this. Instead of thinking, you know, the pain of not having your loved one there, maybe change your perspective and think about the valuable time that you had with that loved one. Maybe do a tradition or continue a tradition that your loved one started, in memory of their presence in their lives, and, you know, share this with your other loved ones. So, the tradition of my mom gifting each other with elephant exchange gifts, we continue that. And, we actually talk about her with laughter when we do this, knowing how exciting it was for her to dress up in costumes and be the elf that would actually pass out these presents. So that has actually been helpful for me and my family to try to continue that type of tradition amongst each other. The other thing is the atmosphere. As I stated before, I don't know about you, but the aroma of sweet potato pie and, certain foods that are usually cooked in my household or wherever we are often trigger those memories, right? The places where you go to enjoy one another may also be another trigger. Christmas tree for me is one of the triggers that I have. But again, when you change the perspective of how you celebrate this holiday, that can also change the emotions of how you feel. So one of the things that I do is last year, I purchased a tree for the first time in years. Since probably I was young, and because I said it was a trigger of mine, right? And so it was a new tradition that I started where I purchased a tree and whoever was with me helped me decorate it. And so that has become a new tradition of mine, and I'm looking forward to continuing that this year. So that's something that I incorporated that was helpful for me. Know and understand and accept the reality of the situation. So yes, we all know that there are certain people in our lives that are no longer here with us. Yet it's okay to continue to live and celebrate the ones that are remain in your lives. So again, maybe that's starting new traditions, maybe that's doing something in memory of your loved one, or doing something completely different or new that you haven't done before. So maybe travel this year to a place where you can celebrate the holidays in a different way. So that's something that has been helpful for me and some other people that I've shared that with as well. Don't assume that the holidays would be a joyous event when you plan ahead of time. The part about this is to be real with yourself, be real with your feelings. You know how you may react or respond to certain things. So, try to put, a bug in your family's ear that, this is something that you're not going to partake in this year, or this is something that may actually bring up a lot of emotions for you that may be difficult to handle. So make sure you count on your loved ones and your friends. Reach out to them, let them know how you're feeling. I say all the time that we really don't know everything that people are going through. A lot of us wear masks. A lot of us want to be strong. And I don't think there's any such thing as being strong. I think the strong thing about our personalities and our characters is that we are vulnerable and we reveal how we're feeling. And that's at that point where we can receive the help that we need, because all of us may need help in some point in time, and it's okay to receive that help from other people. And so be vulnerable, allow yourself to feel, allow yourself to experience emotions. Make sure that it's in a healthy way. If you need help with that, ask someone to help you. And I know that you can definitely get through it, okay? Especially with support. So that's important. And it's okay to feel whatever you feel. So if it's stress, if it's guilt, if it's shame, if it's doubt, if it's sadness, happiness, whatever it is, acknowledge it, and move on. The thing about how we are made up of is that how we're made is that we have cognitive aspect to us. So we have thoughts, right? And our thoughts often connect to our feelings or our emotions, which often impact our behaviors. And so, again, it's important that if we have these thoughts and our behavior is impulsive, or our emotions are expressed and that results in impulsive behaviors, whatever the case may be, know that your thoughts are connected to your behaviors through your feelings. And so that's why it is important along the way to express what you're thinking, how you're feeling, and the consequence of that behavior. Okay. And that's what we call in the psychology world a form of cognitive behavior connection. And that's where cognitive behavioral therapy comes into play to address those things. Some of the things that I wanted to point out, and I received some of your emails, and I'll get to some of your questions here shortly too, is that Dr. Brown, what does it feel like to be depressed during the holidays? What does it feel like when you're like, what is a sign of being anxious? How do I know when I'm feeling these things? Because everyone, actually expresses them differently or feels a different way when those words are mentioned. And so what I will share with you is, again, first of all, it's a change. So if you notice a change in your pattern of what you normally do in your routine, you want to pay close attention to how that impacts your functioning. So a change in your sleep, a change in your, your appetite, your eating kind of schedule, changes in how you socialize with others, engage with others, your emotions, how your emotions are managed, are they dysregulated? Is it hard to stop from saying what you feel without disrespecting someone? Again, this time of year brings along a lot of stress, especially when it's compacted with the loss of a loved one. So you want to kind of, check your feelings and make sure that they are replicated in a way to where they're healthy and they're not actually, harmful to anyone else around you. At any point in time, if you feel like any of these emotions are a problem, then I highly recommend speaking to somebody. Start with a family member. Start with a family member who may be also feeling the same way that you feel. And that's kind of what I did, and didn't discover that with another family member until I actually engaged with that family member and found out, wow, we were feeling the same thing, but not sharing it with anyone. And so that can definitely be of help and support for both of you as well. But symptoms of depression, again, can affect your appetite, your sleep hygiene, can create some isolation, decreased interest. Feelings of anxiety, anxiety can come in an actual feeling. So sometimes people feel like their heart is beating fast, that they have thoughts that are hard to get out of their head, what we call ruminating thoughts. Sometimes they can't sleep because the anxiety or the thoughts are just too overwhelming for them. Oftentimes people sweat. Oftentimes people feel like the worst is to happen. So these are some common symptoms of anxiety that you may feel. Guilt, shame. How can I be happy around this time when I know that, the person I love is no longer with me? Those are often thoughts that may come during this time, and it may guilt a person or shame a person into not wanting experiencing a joyous occasion with other people. So again, I encourage you to recognize some of these feelings and definitely address them so they're not a problem and impact your enjoyment during the holiday season. Apathy. Sometimes people don't feel. So that's what apathy is, where it's hard to understand how you feel, or you're just not feeling at all. And that is something that can commonly be associated with depression as well. Fear of how to cope or how to move on, how to move past this is often a concern for many people. How do I get from now until after the holiday period is over? What does that look like for me? What should I do to prepare for that? So in order to combat fear, I'll always say try to plan ahead. And so if you feel that this is going to be uneasy, uncomfortable time for you, then again, reach out to your loved ones, your family, your friends, to see if they can assist you with planning ahead of time so that you have, your action plan in place and people will be in your corner to support you during this time. The other thing that I want to mention is take charge where you can. Life happens, and it often happens outside of our control, right? Of course, when people die, oftentimes it's unexpected, or I don't know if we're ever ready to lose people that have been in our lives since we were young or for whatever period of time. Whenever someone has a meaning impact on your life, of course, that can be painful when they're no longer involved or no longer there. And so, one of the things that I always try to suggest is that sometimes we may feel robbed of these moments and opportunities. Sometimes we may feel like it's going to prevent us from experiencing happiness again. I had a patient the other day who's lost her husband, and this is the first holiday in 50 years that she will have without her honey. And so, what would that be like for her? That fear kind of crept in because she's never been there before or hasn't been there in a while. And so, we talked about that. What would it look like? What does she want it to look like? And so, take control over the feelings and emotions that you feel that you can and the situation that you can. So if it isn't within your control to host the holiday season at your home, for example, and it's going to be different for you, then, take control over that situation and plan accordingly. Because again, oftentimes things that happen outside of our control can evoke certain emotions that are hard to manage. Always remember to eat healthy, sleep well, enjoy yourself. It's okay. Talk often, exercise regularly, meditate and pray. Continue to live your daily routines and simply live. The thing about life is that it's both heavy and light. And I often feel that we need both. Remembering the heavy days during the light ones give us compassion. And remembering the light days during the heavy ones give us hope. So we know that, especially during the time where we're spending with the ones that we love, because we're social beings and that's how we're created, it can be difficult. But know that you can definitely manage, these emotions this season, and you can definitely get through it, especially with the help and the love from other people in your corner that support and love you. All right. I also wanted to bring up a notion for some college students who may be away from the holidays for the first time, or parents who may be away from their kids for the first time during the holiday season. That's actually something that has been brought up in my own personal practice as well, and for various reasons. And so, I encourage you to do something like this, maybe Skype or have a visual time with your loved one, seeing them, especially for parents, seeing that your child is doing okay is reassuring and comforting. And, for kids or, young adults, seeing their parents is also reassuring and comforting as well. So, make sure that you engage with them in different ways that can also provide some relief. For those who are not used to being alone because of divorce or some other decisions that you've made, definitely encourage you to find other ways to celebrate. That the holiday is not a person, but it's an event. It's a time of year where, yes, it's promoted, where we spend time and share time with other people. But again, I encourage you to make it your own tradition, and it's okay to start something new. No one has a map of how this should be done. And so definitely encourage you to think of other ways and be creative in that, of what's comfortable, and definitely, incorporate that into the holiday season for you. All right, that's really all I have. So I really wanted to address those things. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks, Dr. Lakeisha, for joining. Hi, Isadore. Thanks so much for joining. Jonah, Dr. Jarrett, Patton, I appreciate you joining. So Jonah Roberts says, new beginnings and old traditions, and new traditions for the new beginnings. I love that, Miss Jonah. I love that. I'm going to have to repeat that. New beginnings and old traditions, and new traditions for the new beginnings. I think that's an awesome way to express how this holiday can be celebrated. And so, honestly, there's so many people that are impacted by this time of year. So I think that is definitely a new way, a new perspective that people can have, is that you can always start something new and always incorporate an old tradition as well and still have a joyous time. Okay, so thanks so much, Ms. Jonah, for sharing that. Dr. Donna, great tips. Dr. Donna, thank you, Dr. Donna. Dr. Donna asks, what do you recommend for people who grieve, challenging dysfunctional relationships with living people? So absentee parents, estranged relatives, very good question. And thank you so much for bringing that up. So yes, there are many of us who actually may live with people who are very challenging to get along with during this time, or at all, if any time. And those who don't have certain, people of different roles in their lives, so estranged relatives, estranged parents. One thing that I always recommend is that, with how we see things on TV, where you normally see like a family sitting together and opening presents and singing or sharing kind of, during the time, it can definitely be a trigger for those of us who don't necessarily have what's modeled in commercials and advertisements in other families. And so one of the things that I recommend is find something or someone that can definitely, you can share this time with. Someone that, supports you, loves you. It doesn't have to be a family member. It can be a church member. It can be a family friend. When you're with other people who care about you, then that actually increases the likelihood that you're going to have a good time with them. And so, that's what I recommend for individuals who don't necessarily have those, people in their lives. And so, it can be difficult, it can be challenging, of course, because you see it, and it could be a trigger. But I reassure you that when you spend time with people that, love you and care about you, that you can definitely see things in a different light. There are also those that are isolated. There are those that are lonely. There are those that don't have anyone in their lives to, seek out and share this time of holiday season with them. So one of the things that can be done is looking out. There are a lot of community centers, church organizations that get together during this time and make it their mission, and intentionally have events that people can attend who are, don't have family or loved ones to share the holiday with. Whether if you're away from home or if you don't have anyone that you can identify with to share this time with, there are different type of communities that actually create events for individuals who are in this situation. So, I always say, Google is a really good resource to look out for these kind of events. Just Googling holiday season for people who don't have loved ones, for example, can bring up an array of events and organizations that can assist you in making sure that your holiday season is an enjoyable one. So that's something that I recommend as well. For those of you who are estranged, sometimes I often say that during the holiday season, that reminds you of socializing, engaging with others, that it's also a good time to forgive. It's a good time to forgive. And so maybe this is your season to get into the mode of forgiving someone, and practicing how forgiveness can definitely create not a heavy load, but it can lighten the load. And it can actually, make sure the stress is no longer on that relationship and can bring around happiness that you once shared with that person. So maybe seeing it in that perspective can be of help to those who, haven't spoken with loved ones in a while, or the estranged family members in your life. So Dr. Donna, thanks so much for that question, because I know that many of us are in that situation and we just don't know how to handle it, how to manage it. And so oftentimes people may spend the holiday alone, and that can definitely be something that can be negatively impacted on someone's life. Dr. Jared said, nice tradition. Thanks, Dr. Jared Patton. Let's see. Hi, Lee T. Thanks so much for joining. I appreciate you sharing the broadcast as well. Thanks so much. Hi, June. Thanks so much for joining. So Ms. Jonas says, I pray wholeheartedly every day for God to help me with letting my thoughts, my words, and my actions be pleasing to Him. I agree, because especially when we're around family, right? We don't choose our family. And, if the holiday, is a time where family is spent together and it's hard for you to manage your emotions, your feelings, or relationship that you have with someone that will be there, and the stress, they're going to trigger you. I definitely recommend praying about it, and practicing a conversation that you may have with them. Sometimes I do that. If I know that I'm going into a situation that gives me anxiety, or, I'm going to have a conversation that may be a little uneasy for me, I always practice a conversation, with different responses and different ways of how I approach it. So I know the best approach is to not be disrespectful, to listen, to, be attentive, even if they're not. And, you can really teach other people, first of all, how to treat you, but also you can teach them another way of how to manage. So, words are powerful. How you engage and approach someone is definitely powerful, and it can definitely be a lesson, to them, and also be, a blessing to both of you. So, I definitely recommend, praying about it, but also be prepared in how you would approach it if someone were to make you upset or say something that was, not pleasing to the ears. Okay. Um, Excuse me. Let's see here. I'm trying to see. Let's see. Hi, Donald. Hi, Shanoma. Thanks for joining. I appreciate it. Hi, Aunt Elaine and Tanya. Thanks so much for joining this evening. Have any one of you experienced or would like to share anything that you found that was helpful for you in how you were able to manage your emotions, or how you were able to deal with people that were very challenging to deal with around the holiday season? Please share. It definitely can be of help to everyone. Hi, Curtis. Hi, Dr. Dre. Thanks so much for joining. Hi, LaShawn. Thanks very much for joining. Jonas says forgiveness sets you free. It definitely does. Maya says it's time to forgive. That will preach. Yes, Maya. It definitely, I believe, will definitely preach. And actually, it's healing, right? It's a time that you can actually participate in your own healing. Oftentimes, we come to moments in our lives where we may appreciate people more than we did before. And let that be a lesson to us, right? Let that be a lesson to us. So we may not always agree with everyone. We may not always agree with the decisions that everyone makes. We know that, there are certain people in our lives that will always be in our corner, regardless if we decide to move, or regardless of the decisions that we make. But allow that to be a lesson to us, right? That these relationships should be cherished, and that we all have limited time, to spend on this earth. So, allow this season to be one of those times where you actually can enjoy one another and enjoy the time of year. All right. Maya says, practicing the conversation you're going to have with them. Y'all be prepared. That with prayer will help the discomfort, the eyes rolling, the cussing away. That's right, Dr. Maya. It will. I mean, let's be real, because it happens, right? It will happen in a lot of our families. So, again, let's try to approach this holiday with a different perspective. So whether you're grieving the loss of a loved one, whether you're estranged from a family member, whether this is the first time that you're without a loved one because of a divorce or a move, whether you're a college student, you're away from your parents, or you're a parent away from your son or daughter, whether it's your first time without your grandparents. I just encourage you to approach this holiday season with a different set of eyes. Look forward to a joyous occasion by planning it. So incorporate new traditions, to continue old ones, maybe invite some new people into the niche along the way, and get in touch with those you haven't spoken with in a while. But all of these things will allow you to heal, to manage your emotions, and to move on and enjoy the holiday season. All right. So that is all I have. Thanks so much for joining. Donna says, Grounding techniques help. Practicing understanding and respect even when I don't agree. It does. It does. So yes, Donna, practicing, that a person is in, another set of shoes. They have a different experience than you do. They may not just be as joyous when you are, nice to them. Just know that everyone has their own reason. And so they may actually show that, right? But definitely with understanding and meeting people where they are, we can definitely, allow the season to be a joyous one and not other people's reactions and emotions impact yours too. So having time limits for challenging interactions helps too. It does, Dr. Donna. If you're not used to spending a long time with certain individuals, or they stress you out, break it up, right? Break it up. Allow yourself to have that time away from them. If you actually dedicated some time with them, that's okay. Again, there's no right or wrong way to do it. The only concern that I have, and that's often raised with people who are grieving or who spend the holidays alone, is that it can often lead to other consequences such as depression or anxiety. This is another holiday where increased consumption of alcohol or even drug use often is at an ultimate high as well. Some people are not able to afford the holidays, right? Afford the opportunity to spend and go and their family, or even purchase presents for their kids. So, a lot of us, again, we may be going through these things and may not reveal them. So that's why I'm saying having the spirit of the holiday is kind of recognizing that everyone is not at the place where you are, and to definitely, show some respect and understanding and empathy in cases where, that you can, and that will also allow maybe someone else's, story or situation to change around as well, or turn around. Maya says, I've practiced everything that you've discussed here. Felt what I felt when I felt it. Defined my own journey. Engaged when and how I wanted to. Have been okay with starting the new tradition when I was comfortable in my own time since my mom passed. I grew to be okay with not engaging with folks I was obligated to be around when my loved ones were there. It's okay. Wow, Maya, thank you for sharing your story, your test, and part of your testimony. I understand exactly how you feel. It's very difficult, especially when you share a close relationship like many of us do with a parent, and losing that parent and not having them around during a time where, we're used to them being around, or we're used to their cooking, we're used to catching up with them because we've been away, for whatever reason. It can be a very difficult time. But Maya definitely brings out some important facts, that you have to do it on your own time. You have to do it with some sense and level of comfort. Don't make yourself do something that is going to cause you any anxiety and stress. One way is definitely not the entire answer here. And you may want to try different things, as Maya suggested, that might be of more help than others. So, the only way you can find out is trying them. So that's what I've gotten out of Maya's testimony. And also that, she's actually motivated to trying new things as well. And again, when you try new traditions or create new traditions, it's not a bad thing. It's not like you're forgetting your loved one in their old traditions. You're incorporating something new, and it's okay. If that is going to help you manage, then it's okay. It's nothing bad about that. Okay. And I think a lot of times we feel guilty and shamed about it. And so, you have to do what's best for your psyche, right? And your emotions. Jonah, do you have any advice for a loved one who's lost their child to suicide? Yeah. So, interestingly, and this is a different topic in what you bring up, Jonah, but I promise you I will get to your answer to your question. A lot of times, and what I also come to realize and discover that's different from what I studied when I was in training about 19 years ago. Suicide actually was presumed to be very at its highest peak around the holiday season. And the latest research within the last 2 years has shown that suicide is actually decreased around the holiday time for so many reasons. For so many reasons. One, that we're now talking about it, right? We're talking about how stressful the holiday can be despite all the cheer and joy around it, that surrounds it. People are checking in with loved ones. They have different modes of communication, such as FaceTime, and they're actually traveling or have the access to see people they haven't seen all year. So there's different reasons why suicide has been decreased, because we're checking in, we're communicating. But for the parents who, regardless of what time of year they've lost a loved one, especially if it was to suicide, one of the things that I often, can recommend and have recommended is to incorporate something that's of meaning, that kind of displays the life of your loved one. One example that I give, my mom's birthday is on the 23rd of December, and of course Christmas was our favorite holiday. So one of the things that I do is I light a candle in memory of her life on her birthday. We get together, all my family makes it a point to be together on the 23rd. My aunt and uncle got married on her birthday. So that is a new tradition that we started on that day in celebration of a marriage, right? So that has actually been helpful. And we often talk about her. We talk about her all the time, right? But we often talk about her during the periods of the holiday. So again, I think in the beginning of the segment, I said that, my mom used to like to dress up as an elf or Santa Claus during the holiday when we, go and meet each other in whatever destination we decide. And that's one of the things that we always talk about are the kind of what past holidays, were like for us, and we laugh about it. But it now is kind of brings us great relief, in talking about it. The thing about talking is that it's self-therapy. A lot of times we have thoughts and that kind of stay up here. And when they stay up here, we tend to ruminate about them. It's hard to get them out of our minds. So talking is a process that allows us great relief. It allows us to discover our emotions, how we feel about certain things, but it also allows others to understand, where we are as well. So talking about it may help. Incorporating, again, a tradition that child, brought into their lives. Volunteering often helps. Some families even bring in other children that they, actually spend time with. I'm actually dealing with a family right now who's lost a child to leukemia. And they are actually preparing and volunteering for the leukemia organization during the holiday season. So that's how they're honoring their child. So there's different ways. But, one of the things that I always remember is that your child did not, don't focus on how your child left, focus on how they were when they were, when they were living, and that they continue to live, in your heart and also in the lives of all the people that they've touched. So you may want to get those people involved in the lives that your child shared with, and seeing, how, you all collectively can celebrate, that person's life. So, that's something that you may want to, consider, but it can be difficult. We definitely know it can be difficult. Joanna says, I've had 2 friends lost to suicide. I'm so sorry to hear that, Joanna. In the past 6 months, my friend found her son who hung himself in her home. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry to hear that. And another just a few weeks ago. And another friend just went through the 4-year anniversary of his teenage son hanging himself as well. I am so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry to hear that. And Joanne, I think, again, my thoughts and prayers are with you and your friends and your family, your loved ones. I think you bring up an indirect point that the holiday season is often a time where we have to actually think about these things, right? We think about how we've lost people in our lives. And so, again, make sure that you're supported by loved ones. Make sure you're supported by friends. Make sure you communicate to them, hey, listen, I really think it's going to be a difficult time of year for me. I was wondering if you're available to help me through this by being here for me. Give people an opportunity to be there for you and tell them how they can be there for you. A lot of times we want to help people that we love. We just don't know how. We don't know how to approach the conversation. We don't know what to do. We don't know if cooking food helps or being there when their presence helps. But if you ask them how you can be of service to them, how you can help support them during this time, that often helps as well. And for those who are longing for people to be around them, let them know you want them around you. Communicating that can definitely help. Okay. I'm so sorry to hear that, Joanne. Again, my thoughts and prayers are with you and your family and your friends. Have a wonderful night, beautiful people, Diana says. Definitely. And thanks, Erica, for joining. I really appreciate it. So thanks so much again, you all, for participating in this Facebook Live. I miss doing Facebook Lives, and it will definitely become more routine, a part of my routine again. Remember just again that you can definitely cope with grief or loneliness during the holidays. It is possible. And having a new perspective and starting new things may be the first step to helping manage the grief and the loneliness around the holiday spirit or holiday time. So Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year to all of you. I look forward to seeing you before the New Year's out on different Facebook Live segments. But thank you so much for sharing your personal testimonies. Thank you so much, Jonah and Maya and everyone else, Dr. Donna, for commenting and sharing, some insight as to what has helped you. I think that as long as we communicate and we are vulnerable and we continue the conversation, we can definitely continue to help each other. All right, so have a good night. Again, I'm Dr. Dawn, Psych MD, your most influential double-boarded child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. Thank you so much again for joining. Please share with your Facebook community and have a good evening. Bye-bye.